Lessons Not Yet Learnt is a podcast that uncovers the costly mistakes that businesses keep making and how to finally move past them. Through storytelling, candid conversations, and expert perspectives, I'm on a mission to challenge outdated thinking, bring those overlooked lessons to the surface, and drive meaningful change, one story at a time. Hi, welcome to this bonus episode of Lessons Not Yet Learnt. I'm your host, Kiran Kachela, and today we're talking about leadership. In leadership, we often talk about strategy and vision, and we often associate strong leadership with those people that can go and speak in front of large audiences and give those big, bold, visionary speeches. And whilst those attributes do absolutely help in making leadership more visible, I think there's another attribute that defines strong leadership that is actually more quiet and actually more painful. It's the difficult decisions we have to make when no one's in the room, no one's watching, and no one's clapping. Now, as the CEO and founder of my company, CI Projects, I feel this weight. And it's heavy. I often have to make those really difficult decisions for the greater good, even though I know that they're likely to be unpopular and there may be some backlash. Now, one of the biggest differences I noticed when moving from the corporate world into entrepreneurship was actually the decision making. Because as an entrepreneur, all roads lead to me. The buck stops with me and there's absolutely nowhere to hide. One of the things I hear in the corporate world all the time is, oh, the business has made that decision. It's the business. Who exactly is the business? Surely the business is us as leaders. We are the business. But in the corporate world, there's this sense of shared accountability. Accountability is shared and not owned. On today's episode, drawing from my own experience, I'm going to share 5 key decisions that I think define us as leaders. The first one is the people we hire. The people we surround ourselves with says a lot about who we are. I often go in organisations where I see people that have hired people just like them. The whole workforce has similar attributes to the leader. And that to me says a lot about that leader. It potentially signifies that that leader is not so confident with having diverse thought or being challenged or being wrong. And so they surround themselves with people just like them. I've equally worked in organisations where there is absolute diversity. And that for me shows this sense of strong leadership and being open to learning, being open to new ideas. Who we surround ourselves with does tell a lot about leadership styles. And one wrong hire can have a huge impact. It can spread like the plague. And so it's really important to find the right people in your team, to be surrounded by strong and different people. Now, people in my team actually say to me, I've got trust issues because I am so picky and selective about who joins the team. But I know how important it is to have the right blend of skills, the right blend of attitudes, the right blend of experiences and backgrounds, bringing that diversity. And it's not about what's on the CV, what's on a paper. It's all about the attitude and the mindset and the principles and the values that people have. So who we hire absolutely defines us as leaders. The second decision that I think defines leadership is who we fire. Because we are what we tolerate. If we surround ourselves with people that are not performing, who perhaps don't have the right attitude, what does that say about us as leaders? What does that say about our tolerance level and what we're willing to accept and the standards that we uphold? But it goes even further than that for me. And I like to use a fruit bowl analogy. You could have one bad bruised apple in your fruit bowl. But it's not that you're just keeping that one bad apple, because that apple releases gases that spreads across all the other fruits. And so if you don't pick that one apple out, what you get is rot spreading across the fruit bowl. And then you end up having lots of fruit that have gone bad. And so being that leader that's strong enough to identify that bad apple and pick it out really says a lot about us as leaders. How many times have you seen in organizations those bad apples either rotting many other apples or actually just being moved? And I see that all the time. People that perhaps aren't performing just being moved to another department rather than being managed. And when I say managed, there are different ways to manage that. You know, perhaps they're in the wrong role. Perhaps this place isn't the right fit for them. But being able to manage that is key. The third decision that defines us as leaders is the boundaries we set. What you accept today becomes the norm tomorrow. So being clear on your standards, being clear on your boundaries, and actually living by those and setting that example is really important, because actually I believe that those are what sets the culture of an organisation. The fourth decision is actually linked to setting boundaries, and it's about what you say no to. Because actually that sets the standard. Low standards spreads like virus. If you accept that good enough report and allow that to pass, that good enough becomes the new ceiling. And the final key decision that I think defines us as leaders is how we spend our time. Time is a resource you cannot get back. So how we spend that is really, really critical. Now, I think we sometimes can spend hours and hours on things that add no value. And as leaders, we really need to take a step back, get into that helicopter mode and do a time audit of what we're actually spending our time on. You know, are we spending our time on our customers? Are we spending our time on developing our people? Or are we actually spending our time in front of the screen all day, replying to emails, sitting on meetings? We really need to make sure that as leaders, we're setting the vision, we're setting the direction, we're enabling our team to manage priorities better, and we're setting the priorities. We're setting the pace. We're setting the tone. These 5 questions, that is the real work of leadership. It's still a lesson I'm learning every single day. I hope you've all taken something away from today and can apply it in your day-to-day when you're having to make those really difficult decisions. Thank you for joining today's episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.